try to do a brief discussion and maybe have some time for questions and answers. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Betsy Braun. I happen to be the Director of Programming at WHYY and over just across the street. But I'm here representing PWIFT, which is Philadelphia Women in Television and Film and Television, and we are co-sponsoring tonight's event. And PWIFT is really a Philadelphia-based nonprofit supporting female filmmakers in all aspects of content creation. And Doc, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
My name is Dvora Serber, and I am just representing myself today. No organization. Matt asked me to just be presenting the matchmaking in the North Africa. My family came from North Africa, from Morocco, and the family there was part of. Every woman there was having a matchmake from day one she was born, and we just wanted to bring a different perspective to what Valerie and Christina had there.
So the film just touches on so many aspects. Obviously, the matchmaking is one part of it, but we also see the relationship between the sisters and the relationship between the couple. And maybe it even has some perspective of the Israeli man's perspective of marriage. And
I saw it as arrangement of green card, like here in this country. I know a lot of women and men.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. A lot of women and men that do the same exact arrangement with other women, live with them. At least this is what happened 30 years ago. And I know a few men that did exactly the same thing with an American woman, lived with her for 3 years, and got the green card and moved on and paid for it. And I have a feeling this is the arrangement between Christina and Michal, that she's kind of under his control until she gets her green card, the Israeli citizenship.
interesting. So what I noticed a lot in the film, that there was a lot of symbolism. So I don't know if you all noticed in the beginning of the film when they first arrived, there were these birds and almost like a prison theme from the sky when they came in, and you did see that again at the end, right? So during the film there was a lot of symbolism that we saw. Every time something serious happened, the thunder clapped. Did we all notice that? Yeah, and so it was almost like the filmmaker was kind of saying that the woman was in prison, she was kept. And then also the key and locking the door, and the key was gone, and then the key was trapped in a grate.
Mm-hmm.
All that symbolism, I think that the filmmaker was trying to make that perception.
No, I think I agree with you. It definitely felt that the whole story of the arranged marriage, the fact that they spoke in Skype a few times, then she did expect it. But I think she came, at least in my opinion, Valeria came with a different agenda in her mind. She just wanted to get there, to get together with her sister, and definitely have a love story that she left behind. And the guy that she ate on, I think he came so innocent in my opinion. He was really looking forward. He really had all intention. I felt really bad for him because for him it wasn't an arrangement. For him it was a matchmaking kind of things. Felt very comfortable. He brought all the gift. I felt bad for him. I think that he came with the right intention. Michal on the other side is all business. This is the guy from Fauda. I guess you can, for some of you.
Exactly. And you wanted to trust them, and you wanted to feel positive for them, but somehow it just turned. And it was really that relationship between the sisters that, you know, I don't know if they planned it, but it was certainly in their mind to be together.
Yeah.
And I think the older sister felt kind of that the younger sister should sacrifice her life for her older sister and be there for her. She told that story about the chicks and how she got the good chick, but the sister, the younger sister, didn't get that. So that was definitely, I think, a part of her selfishness, wanting her sister to be here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree. I mean, I just, I mean, was she planning, the fact that she said, I'm alone here. I mean, Michal felt really uncomfortable with this statement, but Christina, I mean, she still wanted the sister. I mean, she can have all the friends in the world, but this blood relation that she had with her sister was something that she was missing. And I mean, I was talking to my sister-in-law today, and just kind of getting to talk about the relationship in a family. And she was telling me about the fear of the Jewish woman in Morocco and the family, how they, from day one when they were born, they were promised to somebody else. They were already promised to cousins mostly. I mean, I was talking to my sister and saying, my mother's side is all married to cousins. And it's just part of protecting the girl and keeping her in the family. Otherwise, in the Arab world, in the Muslim society, what can happen, they can kidnap her. And my sister-in-law was telling me she grew up until age 17 in Morocco. And she was telling me stories of so many women that just were kidnapped from their families and they didn't see their families again and just disappeared into the Muslim family and you couldn't connect again. And most of the Jewish families will find themselves looking for their daughters for years and years to just have the connection, but they couldn't have it. And I think that this is what Valerie was looking for. This touch of family that she was missing in this kind of life.
At first, this is the second time I've seen the film, and at first, the first moment that I saw the film, I felt, you know, this is an interesting film for International Women's Day, because I think in America we are, many of us, not all of us, but many of us don't look at life where marrying someone is the answer to make our lives better, for security. And so, you know, that was my first, you know, this is kind of an odd selection, but then after seeing the film a second time, it was really a film about female empowerment, because Valeria made her choice. She came for her sister, but she knew that this is not what she wanted. And I think we all are questioning at the end, did she leave the sister, or did she stay but change? We knew she was smoking, we saw that. And then that symbolism again at the end.
We're talking about Christina.
Christina, yes. At the end, you see her smoking in the car, and obviously it wasn't that day, but she knew that things would be different with her and Michael, right?
Yeah.
It was going to be different. She made a choice to be different.
Yeah, and the other things that I saw is really he standing up in the balcony there, looking at her, and she's backing up and leaving. Which I didn't see in the first time. I mean, I was thinking. I mean, we talked before, and I said, no, she definitely stayed. But in the second time, I felt that she was looking for her freedom somehow, and she can find it there. I mean, I think that we saw in the Russian emigration to Israel, we saw a lot of this kind of marriage. A lot of marriage of convenience that happened, and a lot of marriage of, it doesn't really matter to me who, the important thing is having some kind of structure that will help me get my green card or get my citizenship and feel more comfortable and get my rights here, and then I worry about everything else. Then love stories, not always the case. And and I think that, I mean, I was talking to my sister-in-law today, and I said to her, you know, the story of you and my brother, I just remember a little details. And she came in Aliyah from Morocco and had a boyfriend, and somehow the day she met my mother in the bus, she didn't know her, but my mother was listening to spoken Moroccan, and she knew that this girl just broke up with her boyfriend. and she asked her, where is this restaurant and how can I get there? Baby, you should sit down with me and have tea with me. And in the end of the conversation, she said, hey, I have a son who is a singer. And she came and she said to her, come meet him maybe. And she came, and a month after, she was married to my brother, and still married to him 50 years after. So, and it is, I mean, and my mother always said, the love will come after. The relationship was, first, let's secure you. Let's make sure that you are okay. And then we will, and then, I mean, this was in Israel, it wasn't in Morocco. In Morocco, they really had to worry about their girls. They really had to plan ahead of time and make sure that they are secure. Economically also, that the relationship will be okay, this family is very well to do, and this is what my mother was the only one in her entire family, 7, 8 brothers and sisters, that married outside of her cousin's club. And she was taken when she was 8 years old from her own family. 8 years old. And I remember my mother telling me that she was playing in the floor with all her sister-in-laws and with all the children, and every time they will come and make sure that she come home. But her father-in-law, my grandpa, made sure that his son would not get close to the wife until she is adult, until she gets her period, until she's old enough. And there were some kind of security that happened there, that it's not only bringing you home and then sending you to become a wife, which is kind of bothered me in this movie. That in the same night they expected Valerie to go and start her life with somebody who is very strange. It was very strange to me.
Like you said, it was a transaction.
A transaction.
And so that, I think, was the upsetting part, is that it did seem like a transaction, maybe from the men, from their perspective. And the women sensed it, I think, and they stood up and made their decision. And I think that the jury is out. How many people think she left? Christina. Well, we know Valeria went back on the plane, and she said to her sister, come visit.
How are you so sure that Valeria went back to the plane? That clearly was not used for the airport if you are looking for the surroundings. And they blurred out enough of it that she could have been dropping her anywhere.
Right, and she could have been going back to get her. And they could have left together.
That's a possibility.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about it. And I think that symbolism at the end that we saw with the birds flying was showing that maybe they were free. And did you notice, a friend of mine pointed this out, Daphne in the front row, she said that in her house she had done that painting and it was of a bird. So that was another tying into that symbolism.
And I think the picture in the car also of her and her sister, it was surprising to me. It was him, but I thought maybe it's her sister. Okay.
Yeah. So I just want to, we don't want to keep you here all night. Are there any questions or any discussion points? Anybody want to make a comment? There's one here. Can we give her a
I thought that the story that Valerie or Valeria, whatever, Valerie told was very odd because it showed sibling rivalry. The older, the preferred, the whatever. And so that and the fact that she didn't answer, yes, I love my, but that story was, like everything was symbolic in certain ways, but that story floored me. And I wondered about that. I mean, and you have to admit that throwing the key out of the window was also an extreme thing. So I'm thinking about her character in certain ways and the relationship. And of course he, in the movie, maybe a little nerdy, but he looks like such a good neshama. So I'm just, because of what that story, that's the reason I'm asking about this. What does that say about her? And that, but then we wonder, why wasn't he married?
Right, but
In a male-dominated world, why wasn't he married?
She asked her sister, are you doing it for me? Am I really here just for you? So she did have that sibling rivalry. I think that's true. Anyone else?
I think that today in Israel we're seeing a lot. I think since the internet and all the websites that getting in, you just don't have so much the personal relationship as much as it used to be. And we are seeing the matchmaker coming back into the Israeli society also right now, that creating situations that you can meet face to face, because the website is not giving you the full picture. You just, there is something not very personal about it. And we're seeing the matchmaker, we're seeing the situations that getting the singles together, and I think that Eitan explaining why he is not. He's shy, he's nice. He should be a nice guy to marry, as is what I said also, but I think that today's society, today's changes in the Israeli society is also reflected in this movie, I think.
We have a question here first. Go ahead.
I was just, it kind of goes with this still, I guess. I was really surprised that you felt sympathy towards Eitan, that you felt sorry for him, because personally I was just like, I didn't feel any sympathy for him at all. Because as much as he seemed like he had a fairly tender heart and he was trying to be generous and all these things, he comes into this relationship with a sense of entitlement to it. And when she doesn't behave in the way that he's wanting her to, he starts saying, but you're my woman, and I'm not going to leave you. And he comes into this relationship with this assumption that he can spend $5,000 and have a wife. It still approaches from this patriarchal idea of the marriage contract. And sure, but
she knew it.
That doesn't mean that it's okay, because it sounds like she's coming from a more desperate situation, her and her sister too. So they're seeing this not as a way for love or an equal footing, but it's a way out of destitution. And I think the way that I see parallel to now in the United States is that as we're moving further and further along, hopefully towards women's liberation in this country, we're not, we're seeing in the dating sphere for people my age, these men that have this sense of entitlement to this idea that they can't find somebody to date. I don't know if the term incel means anything to anybody, but this idea that there should be this sense of ownership and that men are entitled to wives and all this. There's movements within this country that are trying to bring ideas like that back, and the patriarchy is just freaking out because we're trying to find liberation. That's the thing that I found really beautiful with this, though, is that Valeria sticks to her ground and seems like she's inspiring Christina to take back some of her own ownership of herself.
was going to agree with that in the sense that she, you know, in our society we see it, and it's not new. Women's lib. We've been trying for a long time, and I thought I said, why is it? Is this something, you know? I've never known Israelis men to do this and have to bring women in. Don't they want to marry Jewish women? You know, like Jewish boys, and they didn't. They wanted something where they could maybe control it, and maybe Israeli women have changed the way they behave, just like American women, and they're not going to stand for it. Yes?
But I think on an Israeli point, Trace, it's so difficult for an Israeli Jewish film is the fact that when Jews had to flee during World War II, you didn't know where you was going to go. You got a passage to India, you went to India, you got a passage to the United States, when the United States are families everywhere. So here you have Ukrainians, they're Christian, this is where they can go. This is where they're accepted, and still there's no sympathy from the men that come from the society. That's what makes it harder to watch, being Israeli men, that they have a short-term history of being involved in families that have to flee, and less sympathy for the Israeli men.
Interesting point. Very, very interesting. Say again?
You wanted me to pull the microphone for the audience.
Okay.
I was wondering where the microphone went for the audience.
Okay, we're short on mics, so we'll do like 2 more questions. If you have a question, you just have to speak it loudly. I think we had a question way back there. Yeah.
There were 2 back here. I know there was one earlier. You can start with a saw in hand right next to that.
It's no.
Yeah.
Do you want me to take it back?
Yeah, just speak
I have
loud.
a question. Does either one of you know, is this a trend in Israel that's growing for mail order brides, non-Jewish, to come to the country?
Yes.
Is it a growing trend? Because it's a little bit troublesome.
Yes.
I can't speak to that.
I think it is, and we're seeing, I was speaking to my brother, and his son was dating somebody from Georgia, and I said to him, well, it doesn't bother you that he's dating somebody who is not Jewish? And he said, no, when she comes, she can become, she will convert and become Jewish, and everything will be okay. Then, we're seeing in the Eastern European countries a lot of women that this is a ticket for them to get out of their life there and have a better life. And yes, unfortunately, we see it a lot more in Israel, that Israeli men don't have as much. They worry about marrying Jewish or not marrying Jewish. And just talking to my brother, his son was doing it, and I felt really bad because I said, you know how much we're fighting for the fact that we want our sons to marry? For me at least, and our daughters, and he said, so many of his friends doing it right now that they just feel this is the most natural things for them. But it is a trend in Israel, in my opinion.
So we have 2 questions back here, one woman and one man. Wait a minute. What's our ladies first?
What I wanted to say that you asked about the trend in Israel, and also people here asked me if it's something that happened recently after the Ukrainian war or before. So it happened before, and from my perspective, I left Israel 20 years ago. And I have 2 daughters in Israel that they have served in the army, and I served in the army. And for us, we grew in families that came from Morocco, and they came from other Sephardic places. And we knew that, you are Israeli, and you are Jewish, and you live in a Jewish country. So you get married with a Jewish guy or a Jewish woman. Logic?
Yeah.
Yes, better, of course. But the world changed. And what changed and they went out of Israel and started, life out of Israel. And all of a sudden, and a lot of foreigner people came to Israel from Ethiopia and from Russia. So the Jewish female and the Jewish guys, they felt like, we don't belong here anymore, because what happened, the country filled with, stranger people, immigrants, and maybe we will be immigrant in somewhere else, and, so all of a sudden, we are not with group with Jewish girls, and now, Bora said that in those days, the matchmaking, they were trying, to secure their daughters. That's what we are doing, the Jewish people, Israeli people, we are doing here in America. We are trying to secure our Judaism, and and we're trying to secure our daughters and sons. And we're trying to matchmaking them, maybe you'll meet this woman or this guy, or we try to secure them among us and not let them go out. But in Israel it's different. We have a lot of mixed marriages, and the girls, they don't want to get married very young, they want come here and things like that. So the men, don't forget the immigrants that came from Morocco and from Turkey and from all those men. They grew in families that the man is the man, and you need to serve him. And the girls, they don't want to serve anymore, the guys.
Thank you for that. Let's see if you can just, one more question here.
I just stole my thunder. But just to amplify, I agree fully with what you said. The world is very complex now.
Yes, it is.
And there are a few other, like, you know, about the economic times, I think, are hard for everybody, especially right now. And in Israel, it's horrible. Even for the last 20 years, or for as many times as I've been, I've always asked my relatives, how can you afford this house in Tel Aviv? Look at what's happening. People, even Israelis, are leaving, and they're So, for example, this guy, what's his name? Michal, you get a sense of the despair that everyone is feeling.
Yeah.
He must be experiencing, I would imagine, he must be experiencing tremendous financial stress. But I feel sorry for him, and it just illustrates the complexity of our world.
Certainly.
Look at all the caregivers who come to Israel to take care of the elderly from the Philippines and other places. And look at the war right now.
Obviously, we could talk about all of this.
Well, no, what I'm saying, these are the realities.
Right. Yeah, we appreciate that. Obviously, this is a topic that's very, very complex.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think
All right, guys, let's keep it down a
we're
little.
going to have to end this conversation. We could stay around and talk a little bit more if you want to. Very quick programming note. WHYY will be airing on Monday night a movie. It's part of Great Performances on Monday night at 9 o'clock on Channel 12. It's called Remember Me. It stars David Stratham, and he did a one-man play about Jan Karski, a Polish gentleman who was a professor. He spoke with, he witnessed all the atrocities of the Holocaust, and he even got an audience with FDR. So it's a really powerful play on film, and I suggest you all tune in. And thank you so much for your comments. Thank you.